podcast. My name is Samuel Cano, and I will be talking about the article Deterring Terrorism, a New Strategy by Max Abrahms. Historically, defining terrorism has been a job that scholars have continuously struggled with. This is because no two acts or groups are ever the same. There is variations in the actions, outcomes, and motivations. However, one roughly can define the popular definition for terrorism as the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political claims. This article discusses how to ensure the deterrence of terrorism. Now, deterrence is the action of discouraging an action or event through instilling doubt or fear of the consequence. This article will focus on the study of deterrence factors amongst this group. I found this article to be very interesting because it sets forth an in-depth study of what goes on, what feeds, and what deters terrorism. As an area of study, terrorism is highly complex. However, this article broke down the methodology of this group in a manner that was understandable. Terrorism is the premeditated use or threat to use violence by individuals or subnational groups to obtain a political or social objective through the intimidation of a large audience beyond the immediate non-combat victims. The two essential ingredients of terrorism are its violence and its political or social motive. The article focuses on the deterrence of terrorists. It exhibits the fact that terrorist groups are very hard to deter. Terrorist groups and terrorism in general is hard to deter because their sources of motivation are broad personal and strategic claims. Such a broad range of goals makes it particularly hard to find a source of deterrence against these goals. This results in the occurrence that even when the government does respond opposite to the intentions of the interest of the terrorist group, the terrorist group still may utilize this action to its advantage because of its broad agenda. Facts previously stated may result in the difficulty of finding a deterring factor. This requires for further efforts to find a method of deterring these groups. In order to do this, it is essential to look at the main driving force of this group. It is to no one's surprise that these groups depend heavily on the support of the masses. It can be understood that terrorism may not create its intended effect if they do not have the support of the individual. Seen as this is essential, it can be determined that this could be an area which actors target in order to achieve deterrence. This means that actors must find forms to dissuade terrorist supporters since they are critical to mounting the large-scale terrorist campaigns. Once we understand this, it is essential to determine through what vehicle do we reach these individuals that support terrorism in order to deter them from providing support to these groups. It is understandable that it can be simpler to find the deterrence factor for a supporter rather than a whole group. Determining what drives people to terrorism is not an easy task. For one thing, terrorists are not likely to volunteer as experimental subjects, and examining their activities from afar can lead to erroneous conclusions. What's more, one group's terrorist is another group's freedom fighter. However, statistically, when we break down this group, it can be easily realized that the main reason most people support terrorists is because it supports the political demands which they hope to achieve. It seems that the terrorist groups are acting against themselves since they have periodically become less capable of obtaining the desired response from the governments they target. This is because their tactics have become less persuasive as time progresses. In addition, A large tool that the individuals have against terrorist groups is education. Through education and policy, terrorism may be deterred. This education is with regard to political tactics and their counterproductive effects. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing your comments and thoughts on this subject.